For those into anime, it's impossible to get away from the name Makoto Shinkai. Shinkai has made himself a household name in the anime filmmaking world. With a cult following and significant mainstream success, one has to wonder, what makes Makoto Shinkai Makoto Shinkai? In 1994, Shinkai graduated from Chuo University in Japan for Japanese literature. Soon after, he was hired by Falcom to create clips and graphic designs for video games. He eventually quit his job to pursue his true passion of filmmaking. His films were indie successes, but it was not until 2016 that his name reached a mainstream audience due to the popularity of his hit film, Your Name. The first thing that one will notice when watching a Shinkai film is the use of his expressive and vivid shots. Apart from being pleasing to the eye, these shots also add a lot to his films in terms of emotion and atmosphere. Trains, vending machines, and mamacharis are all objects that define the Tokyo lifestyle. Almost all of Shinkai's films feature these objects in order to transport the viewer into his world. The attention to detail further adds to this engrossing feeling that his films have. Lindsay Nelson of The Midnight Eye finds that Shinkai's detailed shots often bring the viewer more deeply into his world. Shinkai's ability to transport his audience into the story allows us to empathize with his characters. By feeling as if we're living with the characters, we can relate to them better. In Weathering with You, we feel for Hodaka as he struggles to survive subsequent to running away from home. Shinkai's attention to detail paints the city as a rough, cold place. In The Garden of Words, Shinkai repeatedly shows shots of the garden in its entirety not only to establish the location, but also to show the viewer that it's a place of serenity and quiet, contrary to the city and the school, which seem darker and more cruel. Another major trait of Shinkai's films is his focus on the lives of teenagers, particularly their problems. Since teenagers are younger, they're generally more helpless, and this makes it easy to show the struggles they face. Aside from that, teenagers are also the target demographic of Shinkai's films, so naturally, it only helps the relatability of his films by focusing them around the lives of teenagers. In Shinkai's films, almost all the main characters are teenagers. In Weathering with You, we have Hodaka and Hina. In Your Name, we have Taki and Mitsuha. The list goes on, and the only notable film that has a main character over the age of 20 is Yukino from The Garden of Words. However, the argument can be made that the story is more from Takao, therefore she doesn't really count. In Your Name, we are faced with two teenagers, each with their own problems. Despite their lifestyles being so different, it's not hard to empathize with either. Taki is a city boy trying to juggle his school, work, and love life, while Mitsuha lives in the rural city of Itamori and dreams of getting away from the rituals and traditions that come with it. The reason Taki is so relatable is because we're all struggling to balance our lives regardless of age, and Mitsuha is relatable because she wishes for a lifestyle that at the current moment she's unable to attain. We all have our dreams, but sometimes we can't do anything to reach them other than to just keep dreaming. The song currently playing is Radwim's Zen Zen Zense. While it's not my personal favorite, Zen Zen Zense is probably the most famous song to ever come out of a Shinkai film. The song has a very pop-punk vibe that encapsulates the film Your Name really well. This is a trend in many of Shinkai's films. In The Garden of Words, the music is not nearly as flashy. This is because The Garden of Words is a really quiet film as opposed to Your Name or Weathering with You, which are a lot more jumpy and a lot more lighthearted. Of course, this is not to say that Your Name or Weathering with You don't have their own quiet songs. Each of these films have dozens of songs that just make us feel like we're there with the characters. It's honestly hard to find a beat where there's just no music at all, and when there isn't music, it doesn't feel like they ran out of music to choose from. It feels extremely intentional, because it is. When Mitsuha looked over the railing and took in the beautiful view of Tokyo, I felt like I was just there with her when I heard the song First View of Tokyo play. It made the scene seem so grand, and it seemed like Mitsuha had finally found something good about this dream she thought she was in. The song is really just an amazing representation of what Mitsuha was feeling at the time. She'd been trapped in a rural town her entire life, and now she was finally visiting the city of her dreams. Shinkai's style of filmmaking provides a fresh take on anime. His films are extremely detailed, relatable, and have amazing music. With Miyazaki phasing out of the scene, Shinkai might just be the new dominant force in the anime world. If you're interested in watching a Shinkai, I have to recommend Your Name. Your Name is the film that got Shinkai big in the first place, and I think it's still the best one. Thanks for watching my visual essay. I hope you enjoyed it, or at the very least, learned something from it. Bye. 君の全然前世から僕は君を探し始めたよその騒がしい声と涙をめがけやって